Hello and welcome to the video. What I have over here are two mice which comes from competing brands but are at around the same price point. The Logitech G502 is a wired champion, whereas the Razer gives you this Razer Basilisk X Hyperspeed, which is a wireless gaming mouse. I've been using both of them pretty extensively over the past few months, and I thought it was time to share my thoughts by comparing both of them and seeing which mice do I prefer more. So let's begin. So starting with the shape, this is where Razer gets a lot of flack. People say that the Basilisk mouse are spawned out of thievery, that Razer copied the shape straight from the highly successful Logitech mouse and created the Basilisk lineup. But even though on a glance they do look almost identical, there are some key differences in their shape which are noticeable once you start to use them for the first time. So as you can see, the left click on both these mice is concave, which makes a ridge for your index finger to rest within, but the right clicks are very different. So on the G502, as you can see, the right click is convex. I understand Logitech's rationale behind this design choice. Since the right click is convex and it protrudes out, it makes activating and holding the right click a bit easier as the finger does not have to travel as much. On the other hand, talking about the Basilisk's concave right click, the middle finger rests more comfortably. It feels more cradled and hence more comfortable when holding the mouse in general. But despite understanding Logitech's rationale behind this decision, I personally almost always prefer the concave right click of the Razer as it feels quite a lot more comfortable and ergonomic to use. Another key difference between these mice is in the nature of their switches. Razer still uses the older and more traditional mechanical key switches, whereas the Logitech comes equipped with the optical switches. The optical clicks on the Logitech have a noticeably lighter actuation force. This is supposed to be helpful and better for gaming when you need to quickly click and make fast movements. This, however, also results in accidental clicks for me, and I do kind of prefer the heavier, more tactical feel of the mechanical switches, but this obviously will come down to your preference. While having very different kinds of key switches, the Logitech and the Razer are still both rated for 50 million clicks, but real-world durability is yet to be seen. With the both of them, I have experienced some problem with the key switches, but we will talk about that shortly. Another place where these mice are vastly different is when it comes to the weight. So the Logitech would definitely be called the heavyweight champion of this battle. Straight out of the box, the Logitech mouse comes out at 122 grams, but it also comes out with these weights that you can add on to the mouse, bringing the total weight to a maximum of 138 grams. That being said, for gaming, I'm pretty sure that most people would prefer the lightest mouse possible, and the G502 without the weights is still noticeably heavier than the Razer that comes out at 107 grams. So one easy to do mod that I would highly recommend to all gamers would be to switch out the included AA batteries in the Razer with a AAA one. This would save you around 20 grams in weight and bring the overall weight of the mouse to around 95 grams, which puts it into a whole new category of gaming mouse. With this mod, which is my personally preferred way of using it, you can also get rid of the tail heavy feel of the mouse, and the overall better weight distribution and the lightweightedness makes this mouse a dream to use. Two important distinctions which makes the Razer win in this battle is that the Razer is wireless, so there's no coil drag, it feels much more fluid and in control. Secondly, with the recommended battery mod, it is noticeably lighter than the Logitech, so I would always prefer this for gaming. Even while regular use, I have come to appreciate the lighter feel of this mouse, as you do not feel like you have to chug around a heavy piece of plastic when making minor adjustments. So when we talk about connectivity, the Logitech is wired only, whereas the Razer connects using both a Bluetooth and a 2.4 GHz wireless technology. So technically it can connect and seamlessly switch between two devices almost instantaneously. For those rocking a dual device setup, maybe you have a PC and a Mac, or maybe a Mac and an iPad that you want to use together, the toggle and the fast switch makes it that much easier to work over multiple devices. With the 2.4 GHz connection, I never noticed any lag or any additional delay when I compare it to the Logitech. The Bluetooth, on the other hand, being Bluetooth, is obviously not as accurate, but definitely is more than sufficient for regular productivity-focused workflows. If you were to talk about the quality of the materials and the grips, both these mice have a very different feel to their plastics. The plastics on the Razer definitely feel cheaper to the touch with a more of a rougher feel. The Logitech mouse, on the other hand, screams premium. The finish is somewhat smooth to the touch and feels really high quality. One area where I would have to give the Razer some points is when it comes to the side grips. The rubbery texture is much more elaborate and grippier on the Razer side, but apart from that, the Logitech definitely wins on this front. The glide feet on both these mice are absolutely amazing, no issues with friction whatsoever. I have tested them both on a variety of services and they both work really great. The Logitech does seem to have larger skates, whereas the Razer weirdly misses out one on the other side of the thumb grip, but it doesn't seem to have a noticeable difference in uses to me. So talking about the buttons on these mice, here we get to a point where it would be a deal or a no deal sort of situation for a lot of users. The Logitech comes with 11 buttons and all of them can be customized using the software and even set up as macros for various other programs. The Razer simply includes the basic 5 buttons. The DPI switch button can be remapped for other functions in Windows using the Razer software, but since Razer Synapse is not available on the Mac, you're out of luck there. This is where the Logitech really shines. The amount of customization and features that you can pump out of this mouse is amazing. In the department of looks, I'd say that they both look pretty similar, but the Logitech does offer RGB. If that matters to you, it could be a point of consideration, but I know a lot of people who do like the stealthy, non-RGB look of the Razer as well. Personally, I do not mind the RGB and I think it can definitely help with certain kinds of setup, making everything look that much more cohesive. Coming over to the sensor, the Logitech comes with the latest and greatest Hero sensor, whereas the Razer still uses the older generation sensors. Both of these sensors can go up to 16,000 dpi with a 1000 Hz polling rate, which is pretty average across the gaming industry. Honestly, despite Logitech having a technically superior sensor, most people would agree that the difference is not really noticeable for a regular player or a casual user. Both these mice are kind of an overkill when it comes to the technology which is packed into their sensors, but the Logitech definitely wins here, on paper at least. Coming over to the scroll wheel, the Logitech has this smooth hyper scroll wheel. It's not like the one on the MX Master series, but it does come pretty close to the actual functionality. Scrolling down long PDFs and web pages and Excel sheets is a breeze on the Logitech side. The Razer scroll wheel does not carry any momentum whatsoever and can feel a little frustrating to control during longer scrolls. That being said, the individual clicks on the wheel are still satisfying for in-game weapon switching with a sure feeling on each roll. The Logitech wheel does also have horizontal scroll buttons, which of course can be remapped using the software if you do not use that functionality. So talking about the verdict, personally I would prefer the Razer over the Logitech when it comes to gaming. Despite a technically inferior sensor, the difference is almost impossible to notice, and the much lighter weight with no wire drag makes it an absolute dream to use. It's that much better in its feel. I don't think that most people are used to mapping more than 2 extra buttons on their mice when it comes to gaming, so the lack of programmable buttons shouldn't be an issue here. On the other hand, literally, I would pick the Logitech over the Razer for the productivity focused workloads, especially for the extra programmable buttons and the hyper scroll and the side scroll buttons as well. This kind of customizability provided by the G-Hub software is almost impossible to match. If I were to talk about some of the issues I've faced with these mice, I would like to talk about the Logitech first. Pretty disappointingly, after a few months of using, the left click started to misbehave. I would constantly get double clicks and sometimes the clicks wouldn't register at all. This was especially frustrating because it rendered the mouse completely useless. I personally know at least 2 or 3 other people who have bought these mice and started facing similar issues in the first few months. Given the fact that this groundbreaking issue is present on a premium device from Logitech is very disappointing, and it makes me kind of nervous to recommend this product over to my friends. Talking about the Razer mouse now, I got a little unlucky when it came to my specific unit. Straight out of the box, the left click on this mouse was a little rattly and it was noticeable when I would shake it vigorously. During normal use cases, it wasn't that much of an issue, but then the left click sometimes gives out a very squeaky sound, which is very annoying and frustrating. Other than the fact that Razer needs to tighten up on their quality control, I haven't had any major issues with this mouse, so I'm definitely happy there. Overall, both these companies offer a very compelling product for the price range, and it's up to you, your preferences and use cases, which should ultimately help you decide which one to buy. Bye bye.